Good afternoon. I'm Greg Johnson, a member of the Board of Pardons and Parole. This is the evidentiary hearing
Thank you.
set. James, will you help me on your last name? How do I pronounce that?
SARGETIS.
SARGETIS? Okay, thank
Yes.
you. For James Stephen SARGETIS, offender number 140316. Counsel, are there any preliminary matters?
Only that I believe when we get to the evidentiary portion, we may be able to make a proffer to get some of our exhibits accepted, I guess, by Ms. Conyers and save me trying to share a lot of documents that were provided in our discovery packet. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. I'll note that Mr. Ferris is here for the state. Ms. Conyers is representing Mr. Sargetis, and Agent, is it Taufa?
Yeah, it's Alpha.
Taufa? Okay. C is here from APMP. Mr. Sargetis, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Did you receive at least 7 days' notice of this hearing?
Yes,
Okay, did you receive your disclosure, your blue packet?
I did. Yes.
Okay, do you have any questions or concerns about your disclosure?
No, I'm good.
Okay, did it look accurate?
It did.
Okay, and have you had enough time to talk with your attorney?
I have.
Okay, do you feel like you're ready to go forward today?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ferris, how would you like to proceed?
Can I make a brief opening statement just to kind of put a roadmap out there on how the state would like to proceed?
Okay,
Thank you. In this case, the state filed a proposed witness list and exhibit list about 2 weeks ago, hopefully close to the discovery deadline, on or about February 3rd. That was filed, and in it, we listed some proposed exhibits, and I believe with some explanation and the opportunity to be heard, Ms. Conyers may stipulate to those which might expedite the hearing today. First one, proposed exhibit is initial report 434226. A copy of that was attached. Also, an offender physical custody history that was also attached. Offender history reports that were attached. And then a screenshot of a UA that was attached. And so what the state proposes to do with those exhibits, which were all provided from APMP, is show that on or about the date of the allegation regarding the THC, which is, I think it's listed as October 9th, but I believe it was actually October 8th, but we'll say on or about, and we'll get that clarified as we call witnesses. But the state's position would be, and we will hopefully call witnesses to support the fact that on or about December 8th, 2024, that the offender, Mr. Sargetis, had a center. Staff at the center looked outside and on the premises and saw some residents appearing to be smoking THC. They responded to that location. The offender was with those residents. The offender was not seen on video smoking THC, but was in the vicinity with those who were. Some paraphernalia was recovered at that time, consistent with the use of THC. And the offender was tested along with the other suspects, I guess you would call them, and he tested positive for THC. Additionally, he had a current medical marijuana card at the time that was valid. And our witnesses will testify that Mr. Sargetis had been on campus and not left since almost 2 weeks before the allegation, which would be September 26, 2024. That would be shown in the log listed under housing log. And so through talking to him and finding that he had not left center, but had said that he had last used THC while off center, APMP's position is that he would not have tested positive for THC had he not used it for 2 weeks. It would not have shown on their tests. And sorry, if I just have one moment to check my notes. Oh, also, some of the test results will show on our exhibits testing negative, and we'll get an explanation from APMP on why the test result and on one report shows positive for THC and on another shows negative for THC. And we will get testimony regarding that. And with that, since the only person I have here right now is Agent Tafua, we will call him.
Okay, let me just check with Ms. Conyers first. Ms. Conyers, do you have any opening statement?
No, we'll pass it this time.
Okay. All right. So Agent Taufa, let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. And please state your name for the record.
Siwa Taufa.
Okay, Mr. Ferris, go ahead.
Thanks. Ms. Conyers, will you waive identification?
Yes, for this witness, and if future witnesses show up, we'll waive identification.
Thank you so much. So, Agent, could you tell us where you're employed?
At 42 Treatment Center.
Thank you. And approximately how long have you been employed there?
It was back in 2023, so about a year and a half, maybe. Around there.
Do you have other corrections or law enforcement experience?
Before coming here to 42, I was actually just working at the prison majority of the time.
And approximately how long did you work at the prison?
Let's say about 2 years and a half, maybe, around there.
Okay, sounds good. And you're familiar with the offender that brings us here today?
Yes.
Could you tell us his name for the record?
James SARGETIS.
Thank you. And so in the warrant request that you filed with the Board of Pardons and Parole, you list 3 allegations. And so I'm going to go through each of those in order and ask you what your basis was for bringing those allegations. The first would be allegation 1, failing to comply with his parole agreement or his case action plan. Can you tell us the basis for bringing that allegation?
Yeah. So it was mostly because Mr. Sargetis was already refusing to give put on the GPS, or he was set for 3-day rim back in September 3rd for refusing to put on the GPS or charging his GPS, and so he was mostly in the center majority of the time while he was here. When I was when he was under my caseload. It was mostly through the incident on the October 8th, where he was seen with the THC. So,
Okay, so that's allegation 2.
Okay.
And so what's the basis for allegation 2?
So as far as I report, Mr. Sargetis was seen with other residents that were in the smoke yard, because we were hearing from other residents around saying that people out there in the smoke yard smoking marijuana. And it happened on that day, on the 8th of October. One of our officers went out there and had seen one of the residents in the table, and Mr. Sargetis was around that area. And when
Can you
they
tell us which officer was that, if you remember?
Officer Church.
Okay, go ahead.
And then and they were all requested to do a UA test. And one of those guys was Sargetis there, and he does have a medical THC card, but he did pop up positive for THC. And our allegations towards that is that the last time he was off center was the 26th of September, so that was pretty much like 13 days prior to that, and he hasn't been off center ever since. And he admitted that that was the last time he used. So, from my understanding, is that majority of the guys that I've tested UAs and seen in my experience, majority of the guys don't stay here longer than a week on center restriction because of a UA test. Some of these guys, they pop positive or they get a positive UA and they're all centered about 3 to 5 days where they're clean and they're able to go back out. But with Mr. Sargetis, since he's been on center for those 13 days and he's not a heavy user, he doesn't use daily. That was the other suggestion we had, and for that we think that he probably used on center, even though he didn't admit to it. And for that reason, I staffed it with my supervision, and our supervision thought it was best to at least give him a sanction because he did not admit to it. And that goes into the allegation 1, where I believe we try to offer a way for Mr. Sargetis to, hopefully comply with what we're asking. In my mind, I was going to give him a sanction for a 16-hour community service, but because Mr. Sargetis has MS and he was having a hard time with medical issues and stuff like that, I didn't want to give him that sanction. So I thought the next best thing for him to do was to be on a dorm restriction where he's only allowed to come out for Pilline or Chow, because that was the best thing that we can do. And since he was already refusing a GPS and he wasn't able to leave the center, he wasn't even able to leave the center, so we can't just give him a center restriction because that was the other option that we had. So I thought dorm restrictions would be the best thing for Mr. Sargetis. But when I came up to him and I asked him and I talked to him about being on dorm restriction, he pretty much did not want to do it and pretty much suggested that he just sent him back to prison at that time. And so I went and talked to my supervision about that point, and it was best at that time to write a warrant pretty much for him for not complying with his parole agreement.
Thank you. And one of the documents you provided me, which has been provided for the board and for defense counsel, is an offender history report for Mr. Sargetis. It says page 1 of 15. You may be familiar with it. And just at the top there, on December 8th, 2024, substance abuse test, it says a urine sample was requested on 10/8/2024 at 22:21 hours. It was collected, basically same date and time, by Thomas Andrus. It was tested same date and time by Church and tested negative. So could you explain to us why that would show negative?
Right. So what usually happens is Andrews, he logged the test in, but the test was taken by Church. So it gives you the OTRAC usually just gives you an option of who logs it in and who does the test. And the test does come out negative because usually they're not positive if they have a medical THC card, and Mr. Sargetis does have a medical THC card, and that's why it shows that it has a negative tested. But if we look at that screen, I mean, it's mostly all ahead. There's a part in the top right corner where it says medical positive, and that's what he's been tested for. It's just medical positive because he has a medical THC card. So in OTRAC, it doesn't consider it a negative.
Okay, and so on the offender history report, it says page 1 of 11 that you provided, which the state provided in our discovery packet, down under midway towards the bottom half under October 9th, 2024, it has a comment that says on 10/8/2024, Mr. Sargetis was found by an officer at the FTC smoke yard with a group near a table where another resident was smoking marijuana. He was patted down with negative results. He produced a positive UA for THC, and he has a medical card that expires December 9th, 2024. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and let me ask you, what, if anything, you know about the paraphernalia that was in the yard when the officers approached the group smoking?
I know that was a different incident. I haven't looked into that, but I know it was. At this time, I honestly don't know what the paraphernalia was for the incident. I just know that it was THC that was caught on the other resident, and he admitted to using. And because he admitted to using on center for that, we were able to run a warrant for him to return back to prison.
Okay, so let's talk about the third allegation now, which is failing to enter into, participate in, or complete treatment as directed in violation of a special condition of parole agreement. Can you tell us the basis for that?
Yeah. This one, I mean, at that time, right, he hasn't participated or hasn't started any assessment at all. And this was kind of, this is before my time. This is from his previous case manager, off of his offender history, his notes that was written down. And it was back in August 6th on some of the things he wrote down. I mean, I see two notes here that Mr. Sargetis still refuses treatment program or to get out, but he refuses. Another one where he also stated that although Mr. Sargetis is a transitioner, he will refuse any treatment to get into housing. So because of that, and the reason why he was on a GPS, because he was also a couple of hours late, unaccountable in the community, and we requested to put a GPS on him. He eventually agreed to put a GPS, but he refused to charge the GPS, and for that reason, he was sent on a 3-day rim. And when he went on the 3-day rim and came back, he refused again to put on the GPS. But we kept him on center the whole entire time. And the reason why the GPS is so important, because if you refuse a GPS here, I mean, there's no reason of you going out because you're not complying to the violation we're asking for. And he doesn't go out. And when I came in, he already refused to have a GPS, and he had one at the time. Mr. Sargetis wasn't really going out at all, out to the community. So he wasn't really seeking for any treatment at the time, and wasn't doing any treatment while we were working with him throughout his parole thing.
Okay, do you know how many opportunities Mr. Sargetis has had at parole?
7.
Okay. And do you have any, well, assuming we get to the disposition phase, there may be some other questions for you. I don't have any further questions of this witness at this time, other than while you're here, did you let Church and Andrus know that we were expecting them to be here today?
Yeah.
Previous to today? Previous to today, when we were working on the case, were they aware they were needed to be here today?
I'm not really sure.
Okay. Okay. No further questions. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Conyers?
Yes, I just want to go, Agent, in order so that I have a clear understanding. For number one, the allegation is failing to comply with the case action plan or parole agreement. I heard you talk about several refusals or 3-day rims or whatever. I just want to make really clear what you're alleging, how he violated his parole agreement. Is there one or two things that specifically address that?
For that incident on allegation 1, there's the 2 things. Him refusing to charge his GPS. The board did approve that on that day to set him on the 3-day rim because he refused the treatment, refused the GPS. And when he was refusing the GPS, his case manager also at the time, I wasn't there, sorry, he also asked him if he wanted to do any treatment, and he still refused to do any kind of treatment. So that was
Okay.
part
So
of it a little.
3 things there, I think. So number one,
Right. It kind of complies a little bit, but it's mostly 2 for for that first allegation. There's 2 of them, and with what happened on the incident on October 8th, what was determined is that he was given a sanction, a level 2 sanction, to pretty much be on dorm restriction, and he also refused to do that as well.
Okay, so it sounds like it's for 4 or 5 different things. Is that, oh, and I'm sorry, it's probably very loud where I am. Let me see if I can change my audio. And let me know if it gets really noisy here. There's some renovations being done at my office. So it sounded like it was 4 or 5 things. Is that right? Refusal to charge his GPS, refusal to put on a GPS, and then not
Well-
completing treatment, and then what happened on allegedly happened on October 8th. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me why he was his parole agreement or his case action plan, did it before September 4th? Was he supposed to be using a GPS? Why was he originally on a GPS?
He was unaccountable in the community, and this was back in August 10th. It's on the office report as well by his previous case manager. He was unaccountable and he was almost declared a fugitive while he was out. So the best next thing for us to do was put a GPS on him because he was unaccountable. And I guess it took them a good amount of time for him to even agree to put on the GPS. But he did agree to put it on.
Okay, so he agreed to put it on and then, according to your allegations, stopped charging it and then eventually stopped wearing it.
Yeah, so there's multiple notes that we had to ask him multiple times. Seems like there's a lot of notes there by one of our officers asking him to charge his GPS for a couple more days there, and because he continued to refuse to charge his GPS, a 3-day written was put in for him to be approved to go on and it was approved by the board.
Okay. So it was after it was approved by the board that he was not charging it or not wearing it?
Not charging it.
Not charging it. Okay. My next question goes to the second allegation, which is I wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying. So you were saying that the test on the one page, on the one report we referred to you, the offender history report, it says on October 8th that he tested negative, and you said, well, yes, but then if you go to a different report, which I think is the substance test listing report, that it has a box that shows medical positive, so therefore it would show up as negative because he has a cannabis card. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Did I summarize that correctly?
Yes. So usually on his test, if he has a medical or if he has any kind of medical prescription, it won't show up as negative on those tests because he does have a medical THC card. But if we, I guess, show the other screenshot that I was sent out, those are all determined as medical positive.
Okay. I think we're looking at the same screen, the screen that says substance test listing, and that's one of the screenshots I have. And it's at least the first page of showing one of 154 entries. Wouldn't the test positive box be checked if he was in fact positive for marijuana?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I want to make sure we're looking at the same screenshot. Mine is called substance test listing. And then it shows all the requested and collected dates for urine tests. I'm asking on that screen, and I can share it if I need to. I'm asking on that screen, why wouldn't a test that showed positive for THC, why wouldn't that box be clicked that it shows positive?
It's just O-Track. That's how O-Track functions.
Okay.
And there wasn't really a comment there that was made that he was medical positive for THC as far as like like previous tests from there, like the 27th or
Okay.
the 30th.
Were you able to personally verify that he tested positive, provided a positive UA for THC?
That he provided a UA for medical CAC.
That it was positive for THC?
I did not.
Okay. So in your offender history report, your name is listed, but you didn't confirm that independently that he tested positive for THC, correct?
Which one is that, the offender?
I'm just asking. So you didn't do the testing yourself. You didn't verify that he tested positive, nor did he tell you he would test positive for THC.
I mean, the only way I can verify is looking up on OTrack.
Is
That's what
looking
it's
up on OTrack, but on OTrack, it doesn't show that it's positive.
It shows negative, yes, on that
Looks
part.
like Mr. Ferris has his hand up.
Okay. And maybe I'm not very clear here.
Oh,
Go ahead,
think-
Mr. Ferris.
I think you're very clear. Thanks. I just thought I would save us some time. The state expected to have Shane Church and Thomas Andrus here, who would have been able to testify to that. Because they're not, anything Agent Tafua has said about the controlled substance probably is going to be considered hearsay. And as we all know, the state cannot rely fully on hearsay. And I did verify that he was not on video smoking on scene. And so because of that, I think there's definitely a doubt on if the state can't say the exact time he smoked and it was on site, that's not a case I feel comfortable going forward without other witnesses. So at this time, I'll move to dismiss allegation 2, the THC allegation.
Okay. That's all the questions that I have for the agent at this time. And my next, if there are other questions, I would like a moment to speak with Mr. Sargetis to see if he wants to testify as to allegations 1 and 3.
Okay. So let me just go back a little bit. So we have a motion to dismiss allegation 2 from the state. And Ms. Conyers, you're finished with cross on this witness?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Ferris, what is your next piece?
Looks like we have no further witnesses, so the state would rest.
Okay. And Ms. Conyers?
If I could do a quick breakout with Mr. Sargetis.
Okay. Sergeant Scott, can you break them out, and we'll wait just a few minutes.
Just 1 second.
Okay, good afternoon. We're back on the record on the evidentiary hearing for Mr. James Sargetis, offender number 140316. Ms. Conyers?
Yes, Mr. Sargetis, even after hearing that number 2 is stricken, would like to state his position through testimony about allegations 1 and 3, if we may.
Okay, please proceed.
And I'm just going to ask, Mr. Sargetis, you just heard what Agent Taufa said about allegations 1 and 3. So I'm going to ask you to respond. So specifically with allegation number 1, if you can explain the situation with the GPS monitoring.
I'm at Fortitude. I was working at Labor Max. I got off one morning, I didn't get a job. So instead of going right back to the center, I stopped by Smith's to get my medicine for my MS and for my asthma. I came back. I was not an hour late. I was 15 minutes late. They did say, well, you will need a GPS. I said, okay, that's not a big deal. That's no problem. So I have my GPS. I continue to go to work. When the GPS is charged, I would continue to go to work. The morning I was arrested for a 3-day rim, I had kicked it off at night. I was not planning on going. I don't believe it has to be charged when you're at Fortitude. It's a lockdown facility. I could never leave, or was never allowed to leave with the ankle monitor not charged. It was a stipulation. Your ankle monitor ain't charged, go to the smoke yard, charge it. When it becomes 80%, you will be allowed to leave. Until then, you will stay at Fortitude. And I'm okay with that. So if it ever did happen, that was the case. Well, the morning they put me on a 3-day rim, I was not going out. I have MS. I was not feeling well. Things were not going right with me. I could not just get up and run away and go out to the community to do anything. I just needed to stay in and try to recover with my medical condition. They sent me on a 3-day rim for it. Well, I came back. They wanted to put it back on me. And I'm saying, wait a minute, this is not correct. I'm sick. It's not that I tried to leave with it charged, not charged. I didn't try to go somewhere with it, not charged. I was on the center. So they said, okay, that's fine. You will just not be able to leave the center without a GPS. I said, I won't be leaving the center. I will sit here until I'm off the GPS. 2 days later, Taufa, I says, I need to go to the 4th Street Clinic, and this will tie in with the allegation number 3, to get the MVP approval from the 4th Street Clinic. Officer Taufa let me leave, go to the 4th Street Clinic, get the approval for the MVP program without an ankle monitor. I went and got my approval. I came back to Fortitude. I gave him the approval. The next day I says, I really need my MS medicine. I need my inhalers. He goes, you did great yesterday. Go ahead, just go up to Smith's, get your stuff, come right back. I went to Smith's, I got my stuff, I came right back. Both days without the ankle monitor. The next day, I was put in jail for not charging my ankle monitor. I did not try to leave with it, but I was put in jail for it. I don't really understand. The MVP program, they said that I didn't enlist in, is the medically vulnerable people. This is a volunteer program. It's not ordered by the board. It's not ordered by somebody else. It's medically vulnerable people. With my MS, I have a hard time keeping a full-time job, keeping things going, and they try to help you with housing, Social Security, certain things to get you back into the world. Well, I got the approval. Then I was put back in here in prison before I could ever make it activated. It's a program that takes about 2 months before you actually get the approval. They send you to a hotel that's on 90th South.
Sir, I'm going to pause you for a second. I want to make sure that we're just addressing the different allegations. So if I may maybe sum up what you're saying as to the GPS monitor is, you never left Fortitude without it being charged enough, except for when you had permission.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Now let's turn to allegation number 3, which is failing to enter into, participate in, or complete treatment as directed. Can you explain what treatment you were ordered to complete and what steps you took to complete that?
I was not ordered to complete any treatment. The program I was trying to enlist in was the medically vulnerable people. I got approval from the 4th Street Clinic that with my MS, yes, I qualify for this. This is a program, it's a volunteer program. They set you in a hotel, they help you get your Social Security, they help you get the ball rolling on certain things, housing, make sure your medical, your Medicaid, everything is set up so that you can actually survive or live in the world that we have.
Okay.
It wasn't ordered by the board. It was not on my parole stipulation. It wasn't ordered by anybody. It's a volunteer program that helps me do things.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for Mr. Sargetis at this time.
Okay, Mr. Ferris?
Can't hear him.
Yes, Mr. Sargetis.
Yes.
And so did you ever have a discussion with people at Fortitude about charging the GPS?
Yeah, they've always said that your GPS is to be charged before you are allowed to leave.
And how'd you feel about that policy?
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
And so you had no discussions with any staff saying you were not going to charge it?
The GPS was never charged if I was not leaving.
I'm
If
just,
you do-
I'm talking now, I'm talking about, did you ever have a discussion with anyone at Fortitude about charging the GPS? So I understand if it wasn't charged, you weren't going to leave unless you had permission. My question is, did you ever have a discussion or disagreement with staff about the requirement to charge the GPS?
I can't say that I did and I can't say that I didn't. I don't recall. Either way, either or, I can't answer something I'm not sure of.
No, that is absolutely fair. Thank you. And so when the Board of Pardons and Parole granted you your 7th opportunity at parole, was there some terms of that parole?
You know, I've looked at the parole agreement. I had a copy of it, but I've misplaced it. I was hoping to bring it with me, and I don't know exactly what the agreements were on the parole, on the case action plan. No, I do not. I cannot tell you what it is.
Okay. Do you recall being ordered to have any kind of assessment or treatment program related to substance use?
I had a evaluation done at the TRC, the Treatment Resource Center, which is run by APMP. The TRC was on approximately 40th West, 3500 South. His name is John. I had an assessment done with John. I tried to write John. Well, they've moved to South Jordan on approximately 7800 South, and I don't know the exact address. I have not got a response from him because he will have that I have had several assessments done with him as the therapist of the TRC, the Treatment Resource Center, which is run by APMP.
Okay. And did you provide any of that information to your agent?
Yes, I did.
Is that Agent Tafua?
I believe it was Agent Staber.
Okay.
Or
And
Tafua was even around in the scene there, but Staber was my agent prior to that. It should show on the record that I had several assessments done over the few years, which have all been through the TRC, which is APMP, and they've all been done by the therapist, John. I don't know his last name, exactly who he is, but
did they recommend treatment?
no, they didn't.
So none of the assessments that you had recommended any kind of treatment or follow-up?
None.
Okay.
The only thing they said was in 1980, I believe that you were arrested for a DUI. I'm not a drug user. I have MS. I'm already have a problem walking, doing certain things that I'm not a user of substance. I do smoke some marijuana. It helps me with my discomfort. It helps me with my appetite.
You have a medical marijuana card?
I do. It expired on, I believe, the 8th of December. When I am returned to the community, I will get that re-established prior to any use. I'm not trying to do things that, it's a medical issue. It really is.
Does a medical
Minus.
marijuana card, sorry, does a medical marijuana card allow you to smoke marijuana?
No, I don't smoke marijuana. I eat gummies and I smoke from what they call as a vape. It's a liquid that comes into it's not a pipe. You don't put flame to flower. You're smoking THC is what you're smoking. I guess it would be considered marijuana, but it's not a flower. Flower's not, you can't smoke flower in Utah. It's flame to flower is against the law.
Okay, and you've only used marijuana in the form that your prescription calls for, is that correct?
That is correct.
So do you believe you were fully successful and compliant during this last opportunity at Parole?
I do believe I'm fully compliant, and I do believe that marijuana stays in your system a lot longer than the 13 days they said it had been since I'd been off this center. I believe marijuana stays, depending on your fatty tissue, how much you exercise, 30, 60, 90 days, depending on who you are. So I don't really understand this allegation of this, so.
Okay. So what about the allegation that you were out at the table when the other folks were smoking marijuana? Do you remember that?
The actual paper says that I was near a table where other inmates were smoking marijuana. Not that I was at the table, I was near the table. I was out having a cigarette. I was nothing to do with it. The smoke yard is quite extensive. There's 4 or 5 tables out there. There's usually 30 or 40 people out there. I didn't see no one smoking. I wasn't smoking. I wasn't around these people. I don't know who they were. I don't know what happened to them. I know nothing. All I know is that I was tested for THC, which I'm going to give them a positive. I am a THC user. But at that time, no, I was not smoking. And as your witness said, they've reviewed the cameras and they showed me not sitting there smoking with them, being with them, around them, or anything to do with
That's
them.
correct. That's correct. And we dismissed that charge. My question was just, did you smell others smoking marijuana on that day?
I did not. I was smoking cigarettes. It's not something that I don't know.
Yeah, my question is just, did you smell marijuana in the air that day? Not by you, just did you smell marijuana in the air that day?
No,
Okay, fair enough. All right, thanks. That's all the questions I have right now.
thank you.
Okay, Ms. Conyers, any
No.
cross on that?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ferris, are you ready for a closing statement or is there anything else?
Could we briefly call Agent Taffa just as a rebuttal witness?
Okay. Agent, I'll remind you that you're still under oath. Go ahead, Mr. Ferris.
Thanks. So Agent Taffa, you just heard Mr. SARGETIS testify, and our goal is just to get the Board of Pardons and Parole the best information we can so they can make an informed decision. And so with that testimony, let's talk about allegation 1. Is there anything the board should know related to allegation number 1 that we've not brought forward? Maybe I didn't ask the right question as far as this offender not refusing to charge his GPS.
As far as the notes, the notes are there saying, he was asked multiple times. We keep our center here a standard. Well, we want everybody to have the GPS charged in certain ways. And that's all we were trying to do with everybody. It seems like Mr. Sargetis has his own ways of doing things. And when we asked him multiple times to do it, he didn't want to charge his GPS, and that's why he was approved on the 3-day ban. Other than that, that was mostly it for that.
Okay, as far as your policy, so if he has a GPS attached and he says, I'm not leaving the center, so I don't need to charge it, is he correct or is he still violating the policy to keep it charged whether you're leaving or not?
So he wasn't complying with the violation of putting on a GPS, even though he's not leaving the center. But he signed a parole agreement back in February 8th, saying that he would comply with the rules that we have for if he doesn't have an address. And he agreed to staying at an APNP community center, which may include GPS monitoring if he hasn't yet getting the resident approved yet. He signed that one and should be following the rules that we have, especially the standards that we have here at Fortitude. And we've asked seems like multiple times with the notes that I have that he just did not want to comply to those rules as far as keeping a GPS charge.
Okay, thank you. And then just on allegation 3, do you have any records or information that would be helpful to the board regarding if Mr. Sargetis' testimony is correct, that he went to TRC and did at least one evaluation? And if so, have you seen any results from those? Or that'll be my first question, I guess.
For that, I have not seen anything. And this was coming from my supervisor at the time. And also I reached out to his previous case manager and they said there wasn't any treatment that he was doing. As far as I know, and I know he probably reached out to MVP as well, but I did not hear anything back from them, any calls or anything that he was approved for MVP housing or anything. And that's not cognitive behavioral therapy, because that's what he was special. That's what his special conditions was for. But I did not see any records of any of those at all.
Okay, thanks. That's all the questions I'd have as a rebuttal witness. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Conyers?
I don't have any follow-up.
Okay, so Mr. Ferris, are you at closing now?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. State would just propose that, first off, highlight the fact that Mr. Sargetis has had 7 attempts at parole previously. And so sometimes, if someone's on their first or second parole, they'll bring up, maybe there was a misunderstanding and I didn't fully understand, what was expected of me. I'm not saying Mr. Sargetis said that. I'm just stating the fact that after you've had 7 bites of the apple, if you're taking the gift of parole seriously, it seems like you would be almost put yourself on 0 tolerance parole, whether the board did or not, and that you would do everything in your power to make every appearance to go by every rule all the time. That's just something that seems that someone who wanted to be successful would have that mindset. And I don't see that Mr. Sargetis has that mindset. He doesn't want to take responsibility for even the smallest of violations of his parole agreement or his case action plan. So he has testified that he thinks he was on parole with flying colors, did nothing wrong, and should be granted an 8th opportunity of parole. APMP's position, we'll hear from them in the disposition phase, but I believe their position is going to be that if Mr. Sargetis isn't going to take parole seriously, if he's going to tell people at the center, if he's going to wear a GPS, if he's going to charge a GPS, and also not provide records of his treatment, so APMP can follow up on whether or not, not provide records on his assessment, so APMP can make a determination on whether or not treatment is required, then I just don't see how he would be successful on another opportunity of parole. And if that's the case, I would ask the board that they just keep him until his earned compliance date. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Conyers?
Thank you. I'll just keep my comments to the allegations themselves. It sounds like Mr. Sargetis does believe that he followed through with his parole conditions, and that with the GPS that he didn't violate his case action plan or his parole agreement because he didn't leave the property without a GPS unit on it, and he couldn't have left with only with permission, and that when he did leave with the GPS unit, that it was charged enough. And so I think we'll just submit on number 1 with that information. And then with number 3, I'll just echo Mr. Sargetis's testimony that he believes that he did not have any treatment that he needed to complete, and the treatment that he was undergoing through the MVP program, he was doing so voluntarily, and that was not required by his case action plan or his parole agreement either. And I'll submit with that. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Mr. Sargetis,
Yes.
I have a few questions for you, not about the allegations, but mostly about potential plans for release. You said some things I wanted to follow up with. I'd like to ask those if it's okay with your attorney. And then after that, we'll take recommendations from the state and your counsel, and we'll come back to you, Mr. Sargetis, for the final word, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Conyers, any objection to that?
Not at all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So since you've been back in prison, how do you think you've done?
I'm getting the medications I need. I'm doing fine. I don't have a problem. It's okay. I feel okay. I'm getting the food I need. I'm not having any issues with my MS at this time. Things are okay right now.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I'm not going to ask you about this pending disciplinary violation. I'm just going to state that we're aware there's a pending discipline violation from November involving covering, I think, a window. So that's still pending, so I'm not going to ask about that.
Well, I will tell you about it. I actually covered my window because the light shines on. When count comes through, I move the papers. Count's gone. I put the papers back up. I'm sitting right below a light. It's a minor violation. I've been wondering why they haven't seen me on it or done their disciplinary yet myself. I would like them to take care of it, because things like this will keep me, if I'm okay to work in the kitchen, to get a job as a house mouse, or certain things that it eliminates me from being. So I would like this taken care of as much as anybody, to tell you the truth. I'm not denying it. I did cover the window. That's a simple thing.
Okay. So let's talk about potential plans for release. We've heard about MVP and some things like that, but tell me what you think you need to succeed when you're back in the community.
I need to collect my Social Security disability. I need to get housing. I need to get certain things. I do work at sometimes as a flagger. I'm a certified flagger. I work through Labor Max. I can't do it all the time. I'm good for a couple of days a week. Then I'm usually not well for 2 or 3 days. The heat gets to me. The medical issue I have, it's just not something I wish I could do it all the time, because they pay us close to $20, $21 an hour, but I just can't. As far as getting out, I was hoping that Tafa or one of the agents would take me to the MVP, not the MVP, but the men's shelter in South Salt Lake. The men's shelter there will help you get Social Security. They'll help you get housing. They'll help you get certain things. I don't want to be disabled, but I am. So I don't know what else to do.
Okay. And as far as getting treatment when you're out, you talked about Social Security, but what else do you need to get treatment?
I don't have a treatment requirement as far as a drug problem or anything. I don't do drugs. I do smoke marijuana for the discomfort of my MS and to keep up my appetite. But I don't use heroin. I don't use meth. I don't drink. I'm just not a drug user. I've got problems walking and doing things with my MS that I don't need a substitute to make me stumble or to make me not, function any way. I mean, it's tough enough doing anything with my disease than it is not to have something else stabbing you, such as drugs. I'm just not a drug user.
Okay. What about taking care of your MS treatment, your medications?
My medications and my MS treatment, I go through the 4th Street Clinic. They have me on a drug modifying, which I'm not getting here at the prison, is called Tecfidera. I take it 2 or 3 times a day. It gives me a 50% chance that a new exaberation will not be permanent. It's better than no chance, you know what I mean? But right now here in prison, they have the dimethyline, which is the generic for the Tecfidera, but I'm allergic to it. Something in there, they've only got to use, I believe they told me, 30 or 40% of the actual original for it to be the generic, but something in the generic I'm allergic to. I take it, I break out in rashes. So right now I am not on a modifying drug. So
Okay.
the 4th Street Clinic does give me all my medication. I don't know if you're aware of the 4th Street, what the 4th Street Clinic is.
Yes.
So
Okay. And you said the men's shelter, but do you have options for housing?
I went to Contwood Heights to some old friends of mine that I used to live in, but I've been gone for so long. Some of them have moved, some of them have died, some of them, and I just haven't been able to make any contacts where I might have a place to go. I don't know where else to go. I don't have the resource. My family isn't here. My mother's gone, my father's gone. I have cousins, but I haven't contacted them for 10, 15 years. I'm Greek Orthodox. When I do get out, I'll get with the Greek church and I work at the Greek festival. I go to the Holy Trinity that's uptown where they do the Greek festival. I mean, I'm with the community. I do know that, but I haven't had a chance to make them contacts again. Not seeing people for 10 or 15 years. I don't know who's there. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know who the priest is anymore.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, Mr. Sargetis, we'll come back to you for the final word, but let's hear from the state. Mr. Ferris?
I'll just submit on what I've said previously and yield the rest of my time to the agent and incorporate his recommendation as the state's recommendation.
Okay. Go ahead, agent. Do you have a recommendation on this?
Just the same recommendation that Ferris put in. That's it.
Okay. All right. Ms. Conyers?
Yes, I am asking that the board reinstate his parole without revoking it and give him another chance. I know it sounds like his housing is a bit precarious, so allow him to do that through a sober living or a CCC program such as the one he was at, so that he can address his medical concerns on the outside and continue with treatment. It sounds like they're voluntary or otherwise. It sounds like there was possibly some miscommunications here in some miscommunications that I don't believe are violations, but it seems like maybe a better job could be done about communicating about certain things. I know that's a little bit hard when you're changing agents. So I would just ask Mr. Sargetis to make sure that he's better with communicating and understanding expectations. And I'll submit on that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sargetis, we'll give you the final word. Is there anything we haven't covered or that you think the board needs to know as we make this decision?
you know, I really don't know what to say. If I had the answer, I would certainly share it with you. I really don't know what to do. I'm never been in a situation like this before. I just need some help to be able to be successful again, to be able to adapt to what's going on with my problems, to get out, to be independent. And whatever you decide, I'm okay with. If you leave me in prison, I'm okay. If you let me go with CCC, I'm okay. I will do what I have to do to make this work, whatever your outcome is going to be. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, any final matters before we end? Nope.
No, thank you.
Okay. As you're all aware, we make decisions by majority vote, so we'll try to get that as quick as we can. We'll send that to you in writing. We also post those online. If anybody is watching, they can find them on our website. Thank you. That concludes our hearing.
Tafa, it's good to see you again.
Sargetis, thank you guys.
We'll see you soon.